everyone, and happy new year. It is incredible to me to think that we're on the very cusp of 2023. It feels like only yesterday when I sat down to review my top 10 favourite toys of 2021, and here we are a whole year later. And I have to say, 2022 has been something of a vintage year for me when it comes to collecting. There's been some absolutely fantastic figures that I've added to my collection this year, and I'm going to take some time now to count down my personal favourite top 10 entries for 2022. Of course, these are figures that I've added to my own personal collection. I am aware that there's a great many others that I didn't add. For example, the Marvel Legends Galactus, which I know is pretty impressive. I don't actually own that, so that will not be appearing on my personal top 10 list. So this is very subjective, of course, but I hope that this will still be quite fun for you, as it will be for me. And you will notice as I go through this list, there's actually quite a number of recent additions that I haven't reviewed previously. So see it as a bit of a sneak preview of what is going to come, because a lot of these figures were on my Christmas list this year. So without further ado, let's start the countdown. It's been another strong year for the Marvel Legends line, and one of my absolute favourites was this unexpected release of the Iron Man with the Pulse Cannon. This was a deluxe oversized package which was absolutely fantastic. It looked amazing. I loved the presentation. I loved the retro nature of this set, which is very much harking back to the 90s Toy Biz toy line, which of course was tied into the animated series. I love this look of Iron Man. I love the colouring. This is a sort of animated series version of the character. He's much brighter, he's more colourful. They'd already previously released this version of the figure, but with much more darker metallic colours, which is much more comic book accurate, I suppose. But I love the brightness of these colours. I think it works really well. This is a really fun toy to have on display. And then they went one step further. They gave him multiple heads, they gave him fantastic range of hands, and of course he had these fantastic pulse effects that went into his uni-beam, which just looked so cool. So all in all, I have to say this was an absolutely fantastic figure. It was a complete surprise when it was announced, and I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. And the pulse cannon was just the icing on the cake. This was an extra I wasn't particularly fussed about, but I think it does look really, really cool on display. And as I said, I think this is just a really fantastic figure in its own right in terms of its articulation, and the whole shebang is just really, really beautifully put together, and I have to give Hasbro top marks for this release. Hasbro weren't the only toy company to have a really good year this year, because Mego put out an awful lot of fantastic action figures. In fact, they even went one step further and improved the standard articulation that we've seen on these figures for, well, about 40 years. So you might say it was overdue, but wow, they did an absolute fantastic job. And I have to say, of all the ones that were released this year, my absolute favourite was Core. I just think this is such a fantastic line. The Star Trek line is so good and so rich, and there were some absolutely fantastic additions to the line this year, but my favourite of these had to be Core. I love everything about this release. They took everything that worked with the previous Kang release, but then just tweaked it and just made it ever so slightly enhanced. The proportions are pretty much spot on. I love the materials they've used for the costume, and of course this new articulation and this fantastic head sculpt all contribute to give us probably the best Klingon Mego figure ever produced. 2022 was largely quiet on the Doctor Who front in the 5-inch scale, but Character Options did bring us this fantastic exclusive Warriors of the Deep set. This was another surprise, and it was just kind of announced out of the blue, and they went up for immediate sale, which was absolutely fantastic to collectors like myself who spent a long time anticipating figures before they're actually released. So it was lovely to see this news go out and then have it virtually in my hands the next week, which is absolutely brilliant. And again, very unexpected, because these weren't monsters I was expecting to see, and it's great to have 3 brand new figures, and this is a whole new sculpt for a monster that hadn't seen life in this scale regardless of version. So it's fantastic to see a classic Silurian. And for army builders, you got 3 straight off the bat, which is pretty cool. But that wasn't the only thing that was special about this release, because they also stepped up the presentation of the packaging. As you can see, the interior inlay is a mini diorama that has multiple levels going on. So this looks absolutely fantastic. It's a great opportunity to display these figures in all their glory. And I think all in all, they did a tremendous job with this release. The next one is one I haven't actually made a video review of yet, but that will come in the next couple of weeks because this was on my Christmas list. So I've waited very patiently to get my hands on this guy, and I have to say he didn't disappoint. I love this figure. He's oversized. He's a pretty big figure. I really love the character of Bane, and I've tried to track down a number of figures of this character across the years, but somehow they've always fell short and left me a little bit disappointed overall. But this is the first time he's absolutely met my expectations of what I expect from a comic book accurate version of Bane. Yes, he is huge, his muscles are absolutely gigantic, he is oversized, but he's not too big, he's not too exaggerated. He looks perfectly in scale with Batman the way he should be, and this is absolutely brilliant. I think they've done a wonderful job when it comes to the articulation because you can get him in lots of different cool poses, again, without compromising the overall sculpt and look. And for a line that's been kind of hit and miss when it comes to the McFarlane DC universe, I have to say, this is a massive feather in their cap. Number 6, we have another entry for McFarlane Toys, and I'm aware this might be cheating a little bit because I think this figure was actually released at the tail end of 2021, but it only materialised in my hands in 2022, so therefore I think it's eligible for this list, and it was a fantastic figure to get my hands on. I have to say, he really impressed. I'm talking, of course, about the Spawn Violator. I really love this character, I love the Spawn universe, and this figure simply exceeded my expectations. He is a gigantic mega figure. He is in giant oversized packaging, and the figure itself is absolutely huge, and added to that, he is a really solid, hefty weight as well. And of course, there is tons and tons of detail, fantastic sculpting, fantastic paint apps, and brilliant articulation, and he scales wonderfully against Spawn. So this is an absolutely fantastic figure. It absolutely started 2022 on the right foot. At number 5, we have another one that was on my Christmas list and I've yet to do a video of, and it's shaking things up a little bit because it's not an action figure, it is in fact a model of the NCC 1701 original Enterprise. This year, Playmates, or Bandai, got back into the game with Star Trek after a long hiatus, and they've started reproducing some fantastic Star Trek toys, and this was chief amongst them. An absolutely fantastic addition that accurately reproduces the original model with lots of detail, beautiful colouring, and fantastic addition of lights and sounds. What is not to love? Number 4, I have, rather appropriately, the 4th Doctor 1/6 scale figure from Big Chief Studios. Now, this was actually a reissue of a previous release from many years ago, but as I said, it was reissued this year through Zavvi, and it was a pared down budget version. It didn't have as many accessories, the presentation of the packaging wasn't as nice either, but it was actually significantly improved on the original version when it came to the paint apps, particularly on the face, which is much improved. And this was also the first time I was able to get my hands on this figure because, like a great many of us, I missed out on the first initial release. So fantastic to finally get a 4th Doctor in the 1/6 scale. Now, there were some issues with this, and if you want to know what they are, you can please check out my video. But suffice it to say, I was sufficiently impressed with this to add it to my top 10 toys of 2022. Number 3, I have another Star Trek entry, and it is the Exo-6 motion picture Kirk. Now, this is another one that I saved for Christmas, so I've only just opened him today. And a review video will be coming in the next couple of weeks. Now, initially, I was in two minds whether to pick this version of Kirk up because I was really looking forward to the Wrath of Khan version of the character, which is due to be released at some point in the future. And this is a very stripped down version of the figure. There's not an awful lot in the way of accessories, but I have to say, upon opening him up, I have to say I'm super impressed with the presentation of the packaging and the overall look and quality of this figure. I think the likeness is spot on, the costume is absolutely beautiful, and there's so many lovely little details. All in all, this is an absolutely fantastic figure. I'm really glad I was able to add him to my collection. at number 2, I have the Dragon in Dreams 1/6 scale Roger Moore figure. Now, I'm not entirely sure when this figure was actually initially released, but I only became aware of him this year, and I bought him this year, and again, he was another Christmas present to myself, and one that was certainly worth the wait. Now, the official press release for this figure describes this as the best ever likeness of Roger Moore, and I cannot disagree. This is fantastic. This is officially licensed by the estate of Roger Moore, and they have done him proud. This is a wonderful head sculpt. I've never seen one better, and this is, for me, the definitive 1/6 scale Roger. It's absolutely fantastic. He comes with 2 outfits, a host of accessories, and this fantastic packaging as well. I really can't wax lyrical enough about how much I love this figure and how I think he's probably one of the premier figures in my entire collection. Stay tuned for my full review, which again will come in the next few weeks. And sticking with Bond, at number 1, I have the Big Chief Studios Dr. No James Bond figure. Now, it was this figure that actually kick-started me into investing in the 1/6 scale figures, and I think it's only appropriate that he should be my number 1 spot because, of course, it is the 60th anniversary since the release of Dr. No, and this year has been a bit of a Bond year for me because I've been revisiting a lot of these films on the big screen, in some cases for the first time, which has been absolutely fantastic, and I've been reading an awful lot about this franchise, and yeah, I have to say I was really, really glad to get my hands on this Sean Connery 1/6 scale James Bond figure. It's absolutely glorious. I love the tailoring, the head sculpt, all the many accessories that it comes with. I think Big Chief Studios have done a fantastic job with this figure. I know there were some criticisms about the tailoring on this outfit, but I have to say I think it's absolutely fantastic, and overall I was absolutely delighted to have him in my collection. I think he's a premier action figure and he looks absolutely glorious on display. So there you have it. There is my top 10 list of my personal collectibles that I purchased this year. I have to say it's been a fantastic year for toys. I'm really delighted with this list, and there are many others that were close contenders as well. But it's been a great year 2022, and it's amazing to think that we're now stepping into 2023. There's already some fantastic announcements of what's to come, and I can't wait to think of those things that we don't even know about that are on the way yet. So as ever, thank you for supporting the channel. I hope you enjoyed this video and the other videos I've put out across the year. It's been a fantastic journey, and thank you all so much for your support. It just leaves me to wish you a very happy new year, whatever it is that you're doing. I hope you have a fantastic time and a great year ahead.